My mom told me to quit college to help pay for my older brother's school and lifestyle. I'm the middle child, with a brother 3 years older and a sister 8 years younger. Being in the middle has definitely come with challenges. A few years back, as I prepared for my 3rd year at university, I went to my mom to discuss tuition like usual. I had always been a focused student, managing my studies alongside responsibilities at home. But that day, instead of our typical conversation about finances, she unexpectedly lashed out, telling me to take a semester off. Her suggestion left me stunned, and our discussion quickly turned into a heated argument. That's when she revealed the truth: they couldn't afford to pay for both my brothers and my tuition anymore. The plan had been for both of us to finish in 4 years, but the issue was that my brother, who should have graduated by the end of my 1st year, was still stuck in a transitional college program meant to be a brief stepping stone 5 years later. I was shocked. My entire life, I had worked hard, earning top grades and keeping my goals in focus. In my frustration, I even threatened to quit school altogether, thinking it might make her reconsider. But instead, she seemed almost relieved. She genuinely wanted me to leave university, find a full-time job, and contribute financially to the family. Despite feeling hurt and angry, I refused to give up on my education. I took out a student loan, juggled 3 part-time jobs, and somehow managed to balance it all. By the time I graduated in the expected 4 years with a double major and a minor, I had repaid my loans and left university debt-free. Throughout all this, I kept my parents in the dark about my struggles and achievements, though I suspected they knew more than they let on. I didn't invite them to my graduation, given everything that had happened. Afterward, I moved out and started over. There's a deeper story about the emotional abuse I endured from my parents and brother, but it's too painful to revisit right now. There wasn't any genuine financial struggle behind their decisions. They consciously chose to use my tuition money to keep supporting my brother. My brother's college journey was a mess. He drifted between schools for over a decade, never earning a degree or certification, all while my parents funded his attempts. My sister had her own struggles. Initially, she wasn't accepted into any universities but managed to secure a spot after writing a persuasive second-chance essay. However, she dropped out after just a year, unable to handle the pressure. Even though she has the potential, her pride has kept her from pursuing a 2-year community college program that might suit her better. Then came the unexpected twist. Out of nowhere, my mom called me, furious that I hadn't invited them to my graduation, an event that happened about 8 or 9 years ago. She ranted about how I was the only one in the family to graduate and accused me of being selfish for not letting them witness it. Stunned by her anger, I held the phone away as she let out her frustration. When she finally quieted down, I lied to end the conversation, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about. I dropped out of university and never graduated. I have to go now. Bye," and then I hung up. Reflecting on everything, I realized that while my path was often lonely, it was essential for my growth and sanity. It's a story of enduring struggles, persistence, and a bittersweet sense of accomplishment. So, am I the bad guy for doing that? Edit 1. Growing up in a typical Asian household, education is a big deal. It's seen as a major priority. There's also often this strong expectation that the eldest son will be the family's pride and joy. That was definitely the situation in my family. My mom put everything into my older brother's success, wanting him to be the family's shining star. I understand it to a point. It's a cultural thing, emphasizing the importance of the eldest son achieving great things. But here's where things went sideways. Her focus on him seemed to come at the expense of my own potential, and that hurt a lot. It felt incredibly unfair, especially since in our culture, having a degree and excelling in school is so highly valued. When it came down to deciding who to support, she chose him, even though, to put it bluntly, he wasn't exactly excelling academically. He kept stumbling, moving from one college to another without much effort. Meanwhile, I was working non-stop, balancing classes and multiple jobs to pay for my own tuition because my mom had shifted all her support to my brother. Every long shift after class, I reminded myself why I was doing it, which only deepened the resentment I felt. Holding on to that bitterness sometimes felt petty, like I was being overly resentful, but it also felt justified. I was doing everything right, following the rules, working hard, and still getting the short end of the stick. It created this constant feeling of being overlooked while he drifted along without much effort. Navigating university under those circumstances was incredibly difficult. It wasn't just the exhaustion from managing work and study, it was the emotional strain of feeling like I was on my own, without the backing I expected from my own family. I want to say that all the messages and support I've received truly touched me. It was incredibly emotional reading the kind words and encouragement. It means a lot, especially since I spent so much of my life feeling unnoticed at home. I've tried to reply to as many messages as possible, and I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Please know how deeply I appreciate each person who reached out with kindness. So, that's my story, a mix of challenges, some resentment, but also a lot of growth and unexpected support from places I never imagined. Thanks for letting me share it with you. Edit 2. Hey everyone, the outpouring of support and the questions about my background have been overwhelming, so I thought I'd share more about the situation with my family. This is going to be quite the story. Growing up, my brother Kai was always the favored one, the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. It wasn't just about giving him a few extra privileges, it was a pattern of favoritism that influenced how both my younger sister Ellie and I were treated. A memory that stands out vividly is from when I was about 10. Kai got into serious trouble at school over a prank gone wrong, leading to a big meeting with our parents and his teachers. Afterward, instead of scolding him, my parents almost praised him for being clever enough to think of such a scheme. Meanwhile, that same year, I won a regional science fair, and all I got was a half-hearted "that's nice" dear barely acknowledged as they watched TV. As we got older, this dynamic didn't just linger, it worsened. When it came time for college, the disparity in support became glaringly obvious. I've already shared the story about the tuition drama, but it went beyond that. My parents bent over backward to give Kai chance after chance, ignoring his continuous failures, while I was left to fend for myself. The neglect wasn't just about money, it was emotional and sometimes even physical. I remember one winter when Kai took my winter coat to go out with friends. I told my mom I was freezing and needed it back, but she just shrugged and told me to toughen up. When I tried to retrieve it from Kai, it escalated into a fight, leaving me with a bruised rib. My parents blamed me for the incident, saying I needed to learn to share and not be so selfish. These incidents weren't just isolated events, they were part of a bigger pattern of neglect and mistreatment that made my childhood and teenage years incredibly difficult. Despite everything, I kept pushing forward, determined to create a better life for myself. Now, years later, things remain complicated. My parents have started reaching out more frequently, especially since I've built a stable career while Kai's prospects have dwindled. It seems like they want to repair our relationship, but it's hard to forget all those years of being overlooked and treated as second best. Comment before the update's not the a-hole. My heart aches for you, Up. I'm so sorry your parents didn't recognize your accomplishments while chasing an unrealistic dream for your brother. Parents aren't supposed to play favorites, and being so obvious about it has had serious consequences for you. I hope you can reach a point where you don't feel the need to hide your degree because you worked incredibly hard for it, even under tough circumstances, and you did it all by yourself. I hope you find a way to keep your distance from them for your own well-being. After taking control of your future, you don't owe your family anything, especially after what you went through growing up. Congratulations, Up, on everything you've achieved. You should be incredibly proud of yourself if you've chosen to put some space between you and them. Edit 1. They're probably trying to get back in your favor now that you seem to be the only child who's doing well. Ignore them, they don't deserve you. I hadn't realized there was a cultural element at play, but I can see now why your mom had such high hopes for your brother. However, as you pointed out, your achievements spoke for themselves, and she should have seen that you were her best shot at fulfilling that sense of pride. You have no reason to feel guilty about being what you call petty. Honestly, I don't even see it as pettiness. You were genuinely hurt by their choices and didn't want them at your graduation. The fact that she's still upset after all these years suggests she might be dealing with some guilt. Update 1. It's just another ordinary Tuesday evening at home, juggling dinner preparations while keeping an eye on my energetic toddler. The last light of day fades, filling the kitchen with the rich scent of simmering spaghetti sauce. My phone buzzes on the counter, it's Mom. Bracing myself, I answer, "Hey Mom, what's going on?" Without preamble. She dives in. "Your brother's starting his own business and needs some financial support. It's time you contributed." I'm taken aback. A business? What kind of business, and why am I hearing this from you instead of him? He's been really busy with the planning. Look, we're family, and helping each other is what we do, she insists, her tone leaving little room for debate. Pausing, I stir the sauce, trying to gather my thoughts. Mom, I have a lot on my plate right now between work and taking care of my own family. I'm not sure I can just lend out money like that. She snaps back, you always say that. When are you going to start thinking about your family? Your brother needs this support. Trying to keep my frustration in check, I respond, I am thinking about my family, Moran, our son, our future. Why does helping the family always mean backing his plans? When do my needs come first? There's a pause before she replies, her voice cold. You're being selfish, always thinking about yourself. Your brother needs this more than you do right now. Mom, I'm not being selfish. I'm being responsible. I can't just fund his business without knowing the details. If he needs my help, he should call me directly and explain his plan. She cuts the conversation short, her tone icy. Fine, expect his call then. But remember, we're supposed to support each other. That's what families do. She hangs up, leaving me standing in the kitchen, my appetite gone. Her words stir up old memories of being asked to put my needs aside for my brother's sake. A few days later, my brother calls, just like she said he would. Hey, I heard you talk to Mom. I'm starting a tech startup and really need some cash to get things moving. So what's the business about? Do you have a plan I can look at? I ask, trying to sound supportive but cautious. It's still in the early stages, but it's going to be huge. Trust me, I just need some initial funding. I sigh. I need more than just trust me. I need details, projections, and actual plan. You're asking for a significant investment. He becomes defensive. I knew you wouldn't believe in me. Everyone else thinks it's a great idea. Belief isn't the issue, I reply. It's about being smart with my money. I have a family to consider. Send me a detailed plan, and I'll think about it, but I can't promise anything. He hangs up, clearly frustrated, and I'm left feeling exhausted, torn between loyalty to my family and the responsibility to protect my own future. As the weeks go by, the pressure mounts. Mom calls repeatedly, each conversation more tense than the last. My refusal to finance my brother's vague business idea becomes a family drama. Everyone thinks you're being cold and unreasonable, Mom accuses during one heated call. I'm being practical, Mom. I can't invest in something that doesn't seem solid. It's not just about what I want, it's about what's best for my family. She doesn't take it well. Your brother could use your support. Remember, family comes first. This family first mantra has always seemed one-sided, leaning heavily toward supporting whatever my brother needs. It's a pattern I know all too well, endless expectations and pressure. But this time, I'm determined to hold my ground. I eventually sit down and write a detailed email to my brother, explaining my position and offering non-financial support. I suggest resources, offer to review his plan, and give advice on securing funding from other sources. Weeks pass, but the tension doesn't ease. Mom's calls become less frequent but more accusatory. Doubts start creeping in. Am I being too harsh? But a conversation with Moran reassures me. You're doing the right thing, she says. We have to think about our family too. In the midst of all this, I realize that standing up for my family's stability means challenging old dynamics. It's not easy, it's filled with guilt and inner conflict, but it's necessary for our future. Update 2. It's been a chaotic few weeks with all the family drama, and just when I thought things couldn't get stranger, they did. One quiet evening, I was scrolling through social media, trying to unwind, when I stumbled upon a post that made my stomach drop. It was a photo of my brother at a high-end club, celebrating with champagne alongside his girlfriend. The caption read, "Living the dream with my love luxury life." This didn't sit right with me, especially since he'd supposedly been desperate for money. Feeling uneasy, I decided to dig deeper, reaching out to a few friends who knew him better to see if they had any insights. What I found was shocking. My brother wasn't starting a business at all. He was drowning in debt, trying to keep up with a lifestyle far beyond his means. He'd taken out multiple loans just to impress his girlfriend and friends, and now he was in serious trouble. Armed with this information, I knew I had to confront Mom. My hands shook as I picked up the phone, nervous about how this conversation would unfold. Mom, I began, trying to steady my voice. I found out about the debt. Why did you tell me it was for a business? There was a long silence on the other end, and I could almost hear her choosing her words. Finally, she spoke, her voice sounding weary and resigned. Yes, I knew about the loans, But your brother is in a tough situation. His girlfriend will leave him if he doesn't take her on an extravagant trip to Europe. We can't let him lose her too. I couldn't believe my ears. Mom, you want me to pay for his vacation so he can keep a girlfriend who's only interested in his money? This is insane. She sighed heavily. I know it sounds bad, but he's your brother. He needs help. Can't you just do it this one time? Helping him just this time has been the story of my life, Mom. I replied, my frustration growing, my voice rising with every word. It's always about rescuing him. When does it end? When do I get to say enough is enough? Mom's tone softened. I just thought, since you're doing well, you might want to help. He's family. That's exactly the point, Mom. I am doing well because I worked hard and made smart choices. He needs to start doing the same. It's not fair to keep expecting me to clean up his messes. Silence filled the line, heavy with unspoken emotions, until she finally spoke, almost in a whisper. I'm sorry. I just don't want to see him fall apart. We thought maybe you'd understand. Understanding is one thing, Mom, but enabling him is another. I can't do it, and I won't. It's not good for him, and it's definitely not good for my family, I said, my voice tinged with a mix of sadness and anger. The call ended on an awkward note, with Mom still trying to persuade me and me standing firm. I hung up, feeling drained and a bit isolated. It's hard, you grow up with these people, you love them, but sometimes loving them means saying no. It means not stepping in to shield them from every bad choice they make, letting them face their own consequences in the hope they'll learn and grow. Sitting there, phone in hand, I felt the weight of what had just transpired. I had stood my ground for myself and my little family, but it hurt. It hurt, because I had to acknowledge that things with my brother and Mom were deeply flawed, and that maybe they wouldn't improve anytime soon. Now, I had to figure out how to move forward, knowing I'd likely need to keep setting these difficult boundaries. It wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to try, or at least I hoped I was. Update: 3 things just went from bad to a whole new level of chaos. It was a typical Thursday night, and I was relaxing with Moran, watching TV while our little one slept, when my phone rang. It was Mom, and from the moment I heard her voice, I knew something was very wrong. She sounded distraught, like she was barely holding back tears. Your brother, he's in jail, she managed to say, her voice trembling. My mind was spinning. Selling drugs, Mom? Seriously? That's what he decided to do? I rubbed my forehead, trying to wrap my head around it all. Mom, that's not just a bad choice, it's illegal. It's serious. Why would he take such a risk? He wasn't thinking clearly. He just saw a way out and took it, she replied, her voice breaking. Then she said what I'd been dreading. I need you to help him. We have to get him a lawyer, get him out of this. He's your brother, we can't just leave him there. I felt a mixture of frustration and sadness. Mom, do you hear what you're asking me? He chose to sell drugs. He put himself in this position. Getting a lawyer and involving myself in this mess isn't just helping, it's enabling him. I can't keep fixing his mistakes. But he's family, and family supports each other, she pleaded, her desperation seeping through. Supporting each other and constantly bailing someone out of their reckless mistakes are two different things, Mom. What he did could mean years in prison. And what about Moran and our son? I can't risk their future for this, I said, trying to remain firm. Her crying grew louder. Please, I'm begging you. If we don't help him, who will? He's scared and alone. Hearing her like that tore me up inside. Part of me remembered the brother I grew up with, the one I played with and shared secrets with. It hurt to think of him scared and by himself. But then I glanced at Moran and our sleeping child and knew I couldn't ignore my responsibilities here. Mom, he has to face the consequences of his actions. It's the only way he might learn and change. I can't clean up this mess for him, not this time, I told her, my voice carrying the weight of my own pain. The call ended with her still crying and me feeling like the worst son and brother in the world. But deep down, I knew I'd made the right decision. That night, I lay awake, wrestling with my thoughts. Moran was there, reminding me that we had our own family to protect and that I was making the right choice, even if it felt awful. In the days that followed, I battled guilt and worry. I kept picturing my brother in a jail cell, facing the reality of his choices. It was tough not to step in and rescue him like I had so many times before, but I understood that this time needed to be different. He'd crossed a line that I couldn't just smooth over. So that's where things stand now. It's been an emotional roller coaster, and I'm just trying to keep my head above water, focusing on being there for Maran and our child while dealing with the aftermath of my brother's actions. It's difficult, really difficult, but I'm holding on to the hope that sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that matter the most. Update: 4 things have spiraled even further. Remember how my brother got himself into trouble? Well, now it's somehow become my fault, at least, according to my mom. It all started with a call from her a few days after our last conversation about my brother's situation. But this call was different from the others. She was furious, practically trembling with anger. "Look what you've done. Because you wouldn't help him. He turned to selling drugs," she accused right from the start. Wait, what? How is this my fault? I was stunned and starting to get angry myself. "You refused to help him when he was desperate. If you had just given him the money, none of this would have happened. He felt like he had no other choice," she shot back. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, that's not fair. Selling drugs was his decision, not mine. I can't be blamed for his choices. Well, you might as well have pushed him into it. You knew he was desperate," she continued, her voice thick with accusation. "That's a really low blow, Mom. I've always tried to be there for him when I could, but I can't keep bailing him out when he's being reckless. I have Maran and our son to consider," I tried to explain, hoping she'd see reason. "Oh, so it's just about your little family now? What about your brother, your own flesh and blood?" Her tone turned bitter, more so than I'd ever heard before. And before I could even get a word in, she added, "And just so you know, I've told everyone how you refused to help him. Now they all know what kind of person you are. Now you're telling the whole family, Mom? Why are you trying to turn everyone against me?" I asked, shocked by her actions. "Because they need to know the truth. Maybe if you feel a bit of what your brother is feeling, you'll understand," she shot back sharply before hanging up. I stood there, staring at my phone, stunned. In the days that followed, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing, but it wasn't the good kind. Texts, calls, and social media messages flooded in, all from family members throwing criticism my way. They had sided with Mom without even hearing my perspective. It felt like being back in high school, with rumors swirling and lines being drawn. Frustrated and feeling cornered, I reached out to Aunt Lisa, hoping she'd be an ally. "Aunt Lisa, have you heard what's happening?" I asked when she picked up. "Oh, honey, yes, I've heard. Your mom's been saying a lot, but you know I don't jump to conclusions. What's your side?" she asked, her voice calm and steady. I took a deep breath and laid everything out for her, from the supposed business investment to the reality of the debts and now the drug dealing. "I just couldn't support his illegal activities, Aunt Lisa. I have my own family to protect. Aunt Lisa sighed. "I understand, darling. It's a tough spot, but you're doing what you believe is best for your family, and I respect that. I'll try to talk to your mom and see if I can calm things down. Thanks, Aunt Lisa. I appreciate it," I replied, feeling a small bit of relief. But that relief didn't last long. The family drama continued to simmer. Some cousins unfollowed me on social media, and a few uncles sent me harsh texts. It felt like a minor war had broken out, all because I had chosen to stand by my principles. Maran saw how stressed I was becoming. "Maybe it's time to step back a bit, focus on us, on what really matters," she suggested one evening as we watched our son play. "You might be right," I admitted, though the idea of pulling away from my family, even if they were being unreasonable, hurt. As the days turned into weeks, the tension didn't ease much. Mom kept calling, each conversation just as strained as the last. "You need to fix this. He's your brother," she would insist. "And he's an adult, Mom. He made his choices. I can't keep cleaning up his messes," I'd respond, feeling like a broken record. It was clear that establishing boundaries with my family was going to be one of the hardest challenges I'd face, but it was necessary for Maran, our son, and our well-being. Update 5. After weeks of tension, harsh words, and family divisions, everything came to a head in a way I never expected, forcing me into one of the most difficult decisions of my life. It all began with yet another heated call from my mom, but this time, the tone was different. "Look, if you're not going to help your brother, then I don't know if I can even call you my son anymore," she said, her voice cold and sharp. I was stunned by her words. "Mom, are you listening to yourself? You're willing to disown me because I won't support illegal activities?" "It's not about that. It's about family sticking together, and you've shown where your loyalties lie, she shot back. This felt like a breaking point. Mom, my loyalty is to Mehran and our son. I've tried to support everyone, but I can't stand behind the choices my brother has made. If that makes you question my place in this family, then maybe it's time for me to step back. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts. Finally, she responded, her voice a mix of sadness and defiance. If that's your choice, then so be it. Maybe it's better if we don't talk for a while. And then she hung up. As the line went dead, I felt a confusing mix of relief and deep sorrow. Cutting ties with my mom, even if only temporarily, was a huge step, but it felt necessary for my own family's well-being. In the days that followed, the reality of what I'd done settled in. I explained my decision to Mehran, and she supported me fully, understanding the weight of the choice I had made. We discussed what this meant for our son, agreeing that our priority was to create a stable, positive environment for him, far from the ongoing family drama and negativity. I also reached out to a few trusted relatives like Aunt Lisa, sharing my decision. Some understood, while others hesitated, caught in the middle of the family conflict. Are you sure about this? Cutting ties with your mom is a big step, Aunt Lisa cautioned during one call. I know, Aunt Lisa, and I didn't make this decision lightly. But for now, it's what I need to do for my peace of mind and for the stability of our little family. I hope that someday things might change, and we can find a way to reconnect in a healthier way, I explained. My voice steady yet filled with emotion. As weeks turned into months, the distance from the family drama allowed Mehran and me to focus on our son and our future together. We started planning for his upcoming birthday, finding joy in our small, close-knit family unit. Throughout this time, I learned a difficult lesson about boundaries and the complexities of family loyalty. It was a hard path, filled with challenges, but it was necessary. And while I hoped that one day things might heal, I knew that any future relationship with my mom would have to be built on mutual respect, with clear boundaries that protect my own family's well-being. So that's where things stand now. It's far from easy, but sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that need to be made. Here's hoping for a future where things might improve and family bonds can be restored in a way that is positive and healthy for everyone involved.